All right, welcome back. This is Ken, and I'm back with Calvin here at the Game Grid Spring Championship. Um, so here we have Troy Navarro, who was ranked number 4 in the top 8 against Brian Myers, who was ranked number 1. And here we are for the semifinals of the championship. We had 4 rounds of Modern to start the day, followed by 4 rounds of Standard, and then a cut to top 8 where they drafted. And so now we are playing Limited. We watched Brian earlier today as he played Standard. He was playing Blue-White Azorius Aggro and dealt handily with the Nexus deck that he was up against. We haven't seen Troy on stream yet, probably due to the fact that we dropped down to the lower tables once we got near the end of the tournament. But we'll see what they drafted, what they're on, and have a lot of fun watching some Magic. This is one more round after this. Prize support for today's event is pretty exciting. There's $3,000 in prizes that were paid out for this event. First place gets $1,000. Second place gets $600. And for being in the top 4, you're guaranteed, I believe it's $300. So both these players are guaranteed $300 even if they lose this match. Essentially playing for an extra $300 and maybe even $400 on top of that to get to the full 1,000 today.
Look at these high rollers making bank.
Yeah.
Right now they're just determining their opening hands, and for
Nice.
Brian being the number 1 seed is going to take him to first play.
Yeah, so Island facing off against Mountain. It looks like we have a Bant deck from Brian. We'll name it White, Blue, Green in Wooburg order. Meanwhile, it looks so far like mono red, though I do see some gold cards in Troy's hand. An Aeromunculus is facing off against a 2/2 Lynx with no rules text on it, and I can't remember the name of the other red drop. It's a 2/1, and for 4 mana, it can pump +2/+2. And Brian Myers plays the fan favorite Sharktocrab. That's I believe it's a 3/3, maybe a 4/4 with Adapt 1, and when a 1/1 counter is put on it, you can tap a creature. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that Troy is on red-green.
Also took some damage from the.
That's a good point from the Aeromunculus. Aeromunculus, I believe, is a 2/3 flyer. And it looks like a high alert, and then another now 3 damage from the Aeromunculus in the air. I watched Brian Myers do quite effective things with his high alert the game before this. And Troy keeps on having to pass back, missing a land drop and probably the colors he needs to really effectively impact this board. Alright, I can't remember the name of this enchantment, but it gives vigilance and +1/+2 to the enchanted creature, and with addendum, it gives lifelink to the Sharktocrab for the turn. So Brian in a very good position and dealing bonus damage with the combination of that enchantment and the high alert. That's a wall coming in. It's a 0/4, which with high alert deals 4 damage. That mills a player for 4, and Troy has had enough, which I'm glad of because I wasn't sure how much damage that Sharktocrab just dealt last turn.
In the words of a wise sage, that's a lot of damage.
All right, so we have a lot of fans for Brian in the chat, and good news for you guys. He won game 1. So Troy will be most likely on the play for game 2. Hopefully he won't have color issues. Or I guess for you Brian fans, you'd love to see some colored issues. But for those of us who want to watch a good game of Magic, we'd like to see Troy's deck function a little better this next time around.
It'll also be good to see Troy go first this time. It looks like he's playing another aggro deck. Funnily enough, last round he also had another aggro deck on the same side of the table. Let's see how that fares this round.
We got red against blue, white and blue.
Now going first in a draft isn't quite as relevant as it is in, say, Modern, for example, right?
Yeah, probably not. There's still, in draft, the fundamentals of Magic get really stressed about making sure you're using all of your mana, making sure that you are paying attention to tempo and card advantage. And so the choice to play and draw can be pretty interesting because card advantage means a lot, which means you might want to take the controversial option of drawing rather than playing first. A little more likely than you are in these other formats where your deck is very linear and just trying to do its thing first. But with that being said, being on the play is a very powerful. You're ahead on mana usually, and
Play bigger creatures too sooner, which is a huge tempo play often.
you get to attack before your opponent, which especially for a typical red-green deck that like to just beat down with creatures could matter a lot. We saw that Brian was able to really capitalize on his ability to go first and putting Troy just so far behind that stumbling on mana really put the game out of reach. So, drawing their opening 7, seeing how they want to play. Troy is not starting the second game at 15 life. As much as you
bit of a
Brian.
handicap, yeah.
Alright, Troy found his green.
Oh, we're in business.
And
Boys are back in town.
Brian starts with a Simic Guildgate. This is round 2 of the top 8, the semifinals, and this is game 2 of that round. So there is one other match going on beside this one. Brian Meyer's starting off with a Prophet. Can't remember the name of this card. It's a 2/2 that whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain 1 life. Troy coming down. I can't remember the name of this card either. It's a 3/3 with, I believe it can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. Brian trying to decide he has a Gateway Sneak, which is a very powerful card. When it deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Very powerful affecting draft, and something that Brian Myers is looking to connect with several times. But he settles for this Wall of Memories, which effectively counters the 3/3. Unless, of course, I'm forgetting and this creature has a different evasive ability than the one I mentioned. But
Almost looks like Troy has the opposite problem that he did last game. He has 2 more lands in hand in addition to the 4 he already has on the battlefield. Depending on how cheap his creatures are, that could be a bit of an issue.
well, he is able to fight the wall and then attack. Can someone help me out? Does that spell he used to fight, does it increase the power of the creature before? Okay, thanks. Good to know. We'll let someone know to turn the music down. Do you know, Paul, whether that fight spell he used increased the power of the 3/3 creature that Troy has? Oh, he's gained life, hasn't he? He's probably back at 20 after gaining life. Okay, we'll say he's at 19 life. Oh no, what'd I do? This mouse is fighting me. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties here for a second. Apologize. +2, +2. Okay, so then Paul's probably at 15 right now. Maybe 16 since he got that Oracle out.
Alright, Paul, I did try to turn that music down for you. Hopefully that made a little bit of an effect.
I don't know what I do. Lots of life shenanigans going on Brian's side. And Troy trying to decide what to do with the rest of his mana on his turn. Oh, and can't remember. This is a 4/4 for 5 with Riot 1. Or Riot doesn't have a number on it. He attacks. And looks like Brian's going into chump blocking mode. I'm not sure what this creature at the top of the screen that it's attacking is. Brian just jumps and takes the damage. Not sure how much damage that creature deals. Zoyas Night Arbiter from Brian. We saw Spencer use that card to great effect. It'll be nice. Looks like Troy gave his Riot creature haste, which leaves it as a 4/4. And so that Zoyas Night Arbiter blocks it quite well. Is that card at the top of 5/4? Melee Sneak gains Brian 2 life. I think Brian's at 14 life. He did. I think he's at 14 life. I'm going to check. Troy attacks again. And this time it looks like Brian would like to use his profits to trade the large green creature. Takes another, I think it's 5 damage, and then another Riot creature. Brian does have a nifty little trick with the Fairy Duelist in his hand. We'll see if he's able to leverage that. 18 to 8. And do you know what these creatures that Troy controls are? Do you know what the creatures that Troy controls are? Like what this is? Looks like Troy's thinking about attacking. Oh no, it's Brian's turn. Oh, no, yeah. Troy's thinking about attacking. Before he attacks, Brian uses Shark the Crab's adaptability to tap down the larger of Troy's creatures and attacks with, I believe it's a 4/4. And the Shark the Crab jumps in front. Now that Shark the Crab is a 5/5. And Troy looks to be thinking about casting a spell or maybe activating an ability. And Brian now going to use his Fairy Duelist to save his Shark the Crab.
It's a Rubble Belt Recluse, which is a 6/5.
A 6/5. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so with the Shark the Crab's size and the Fairy Duelist coming down, looks like the Shark the Crab and the
Trade and Trample 2.
Trade and Trample 2?
That's why I missed something.
Its power went down to.
Did it?
Yeah. So it had 7 power. Is that what happened? Okay. Here's the Azorius Night Arbiter. I'm going to look up that card. So after Brian plays the Azorius Night Arbiter, he attacks for 1 with his Fairy Duelist, leaving back the Sneak to block the 3/3. Oh, and this is a nice rare from Troy. This card is able to use... V-Star is playing right now, if that's Brian Myers. This is a 4/4 for 5 that Troy played, and it can tap to remove a counter from a... oh, and then it looks like he attacked for 6. I think Brian might be at 2. Oh. I believe it is. Got a lot of interesting cards coming into play, but I'm not sure exactly what they all do. With Zagana Utopian Speaker, she enters the battlefield if you and lets you draw a card if you control a creature with a 1/1 counter on it. But Brian did not. She has Adapt 4, and each creature with a 1/1 counter on it has Trample. So next turn she could become a very formidable force. Both players kind of with 1/1 counter synergies, but without really the opportunity to leverage them. Troy attacks with his 6/5, and Brian is forced to chump. That leads me to believe that Brian is in fact at 2, having taken the damage last turn. And another Erinx and the powerful Incubation Druid.
That's a line off the drop from Brian Myers. Things are not looking as well as he'd probably like them to be right now. I still believe it.
It looks like he does too, as he's trying to decide. Alright, so the Frenzied Erinx is the creature with Riot with the 1/1 counter on it. And for 6 mana, it can get +3/+0 until end of turn, and it has Trample. That 1/1 counter on it does provide synergy with the rare at the bottom of Troy's screen. This is Bullrack Clan Crusher. Oh, it's an uncommon. I'm sorry. It's just... and it can remove a 1/1 counter from a target creature you control to deal 2 damage to any target, which leads me to believe that Brian is actually still at 8, because otherwise he would be dead on board. After removing the Fairy Duelist, Troy untaps with a pretty formidable force. He can activate that Incubation Druid's ability to make it a 3/5 and attack for a lot of damage. The Zanaga can turn into an 8/8, and maybe give Brian some hope. Brian's in the tank here trying to decide exactly how to block.
Looks like Brian has declared see if there's any effects from Troy.
Troy activates his incubation druid and then uses it. The counter, that's a great play. Uses the counter with his Bullrock Clan Crusher to deal 2 damage. The final 2 damage to deal lethal to Brian Myers. We are going to have a game 3 here in the semifinals. All you Brian fans, he'll be on the play, and he does look like to have a strong deck. We'll see if he can pull it out or if Troy emerges victorious.
It's a pretty dominant showing from Brian game 1, but also Troy was a little bit minus screwed. So. Well, I guess we'll see how this game 3 lines up.
Yeah, he started with 15 that last game. He gets 120 in game 3.
Just to make things fair. So we'll have some sideboarding from both players, or sideboarding as it were for draft. It's a much bigger storyboard than I get to use for my modern deck.
Yeah, but not quite as streamlined of a selection.
Shocking, really, how that works. Although it seems that there is actually a card that Brian would like to put in. Maybe? Oh, he's thinking. Oh, he did it. Oh, it's in.
That looks like it's a pump spell.
Because he wants to be a little more aggressive now that he's back on the play.
And creature combat does look to be pretty important in this matchup.
Pump spell can honestly make or break a game, because that's the difference between your biggest threat or your most clutch creature living or dying.
Yeah, it looks like it was a Stony Strength. For 1 mana and an instant, it puts a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, and you untap that creature. Nifty little combat trick, especially if you want to get aggressive and attack your opponent.
Also, very techy, very techy. I certainly hope that one card wins Brian the game. I mean, it is a 40-card deck, so that's right. The odds are statistically better for him to draw that one card than it would be for a standard 60-card deck.
Brian Myers does have Hyler in his deck. It's a very strong card. I saw him use it with Scrabble Claws and the Wall of Memories to be attacking with typically weak creatures. In fact, he was even attacking with a creature that had been tied down. I'm trying to remember the name of that specific card. Sky Tether was on one of his cards, but thanks to Hyler, he was still able to attack with it. Even
Just
a
a
Sky
random
Tether,
upside. Pretty awesome.
yeah, Sky Tether usually gives Defender to opponent's creature and makes it a bit of a conditional removal spell. But with High Alert, Sky Tether is not very useful.
Not particularly.
So it does take away flying still,
That is
which can be relevant.
sometimes. Not as relevant as actually having high alert on the field against your opponent.
Right.
All right, guys, it should be a pretty interesting game 3. Both players look like they have pretty good decks, good players. I mean, they've made it this far, so clearly they can't be that bad. Better than me, at least, that's for sure.
They've made it through several rounds of 3 different formats to get to this point. So a lot of preparation goes into this, and it looks like it's paid off for Brian and Troy.
I know I'd like to play in one of these someday. I mean, right now I'm pretty much a modern one trick, but that's okay. One of these days I'll get around to playing the other
You get a lot
less interesting formats.
You get a lot of players that are really good with in the one format, and not necessarily prepared to go through like this several different formats.
Yeah, it takes the best of the best.
Brian Myers has an interesting choice. He has in his opening hand 2 very interesting cards. One is a Sphinx of Foresight, which if he keeps in his opening hand, as it looks like he did, allows him to scry 3. He also has a Dovin Grand Arbiter in his hand, a powerful mythic planeswalker that could have a strong effect on the outcome of this game. It's always exciting to be able to pull a Planeswalker in your draft deck.
Somewhat powerhouses, sometimes.
Interesting choice by Brian. He is land light in his hand, but he does get to scry 3 to start the game, and so he might use that to get lands. And it looks like he does have 2 lands, and he's trying to decide which to keep. It looks like he's putting basic plains on the bottom and keeping the rest of the cards on top of his library. And there's an island. Is that a profit? Ryan Myers 2/2 gains him a life whenever a creature enters the battlefield under his control, whereas Troy's 2/2 is simply a 2/2.
He just slammed the Planeswalker and has a creature to protect it.
And Dovin also gets to create a 1/1 itself. That'll gain actually 2 life from both Dovin's ability and the creature's ability.
Pretty strong start from Brian.
I do believe Dovin likes to speak quietly and carry a big stick. Where's my mouse at?
It's there. You just okay. Stop.
Oh, look.
If it's slowly. Don't mind us. Just a little bit of technical difficulty with some mice. Luckily for me, there's no cat here that's got our tongues, so we'll be fine.
I don't think you're allowed to say any more puns. This is a family-friendly stream.
I'm sorry. They were pun intentional, so.
We'll get to work on those life totals here. It looks like Troy's missing his land drops again, and all he has to show for it is a 2/2, and he's discarding his cards to hand size. It looks like, for you Brian fans, this might be over fairly quickly in your favor. Looks like Dovin plus trading off the profit for an Asimic Ascendancy. What an interesting choice. Whenever a 1/1 counter gets put on to a creature you control, that is Asimic Ascendancy, isn't it? Sorry about working on these life totals. We're having some technical difficulties. We will update those shortly. Dovin, meanwhile, looks to be running away with this game as Troy has stumbled on lands.
That's not a land for Troy. That's rough. That is rough. So that's a concession. All right. GG's going to Brian.
Magic sometimes has variants. I personally am a fan of the idea of the London Mulligan and would like to see that take a little of the variance out of the games, at least as far as a player's ability to play through the whole game. Well, we resolved those technical difficulties just in time for Troy to concede. So, Brian fans, congratulations. He'll be going to the finals.
Playing for that 1K.
You can play for $1,000, though the players could choose to split the prizes and get $800 each, which isn't a bad deal. So we'll let you know how the players are feeling, and if we get one last round here, or that might be all she wrote, and you might have Brian as a joint champion of the Game Grid Championship. So we will see how that goes, and we'll be back to update you shortly.